Hello, friends. How are you? I am David. I'm 24 years old and I'm from Argentina. My first language is Spanish, but now I also speak English. Today, I want to tell you my story. I want to share with you how I became a good English speaker and how English helped me in my life. It took me about 6 months. Yes, 6 months using just my own way to learn. I didn't ask anyone for help, and I didn't pay for any private lessons. I didn't travel or live in an English-speaking country. And I didn't use any traditional methods at all. I am sharing my story with everyone who needs help, because I know that most of us struggles and don't like boring rules when learning a new language. I have always believed that rules make me feel like there are limits on what I can do. I believe we need to feel free in order to learn properly. So if you have tried many times to improve your English using all the classic methods, but your English is still not good, and it's making you feel tired and frustrated, my journey will really inspire you, because I was in the same situation. Now see how I did it, step by step, and you will know what to do to make real progress in your English. Part 1. Poverty, Hope, Frustration. Life was not easy for me. I was the oldest son, born into a poor family, with one brother and one sister. My father worked as a gardener. He spent long hours in the sun, taking care of plants and gardens for other people. My mother worked as a cleaner. She walked from house to house, cleaning to help our family survive. We had nothing. No extra clothes, no toys, sometimes not even enough food. I had just one repetitive sentence that my parents always said to me: even when we have nothing, we must still have hope. My primary school years were difficult. We didn't have enough money, not even for proper clothes or school books. I wanted to help my parents, so I started working after school. I cleaned cars, helped in a small shop, and sometimes worked at the market. I studied during the day and worked in the evenings and on weekends. While doing different types of work, I discovered something special. I loved working in the market, selling many different things, like fruits, vegetables, clothes, phone accessories, and small electronics. Sales was the work that deeply attracted me. It made me feel happy to talk with people, make deals, be responsible, and manage the money from buying items to selling them. I felt a strong passion for sales. Days passed, and I continued with the same routine. Studying during the day, working in the evenings and on weekends, and earning money to help at home. It wasn't much, but it was important for us. My love for sales kept growing. When secondary school came, I had to choose a branch to continue my studies. I didn't hesitate. I immediately chose the marketing branch. We started learning about sales, commerce, and management. I was so happy because my passion for work and my studies became one in the same field. The dream of becoming a top sales manager and working with a big company had already formed in my mind. I gave my best in school. I worked in many other markets. I accumulated a lot of experience and became a good seller. Finally, after years of effort and perseverance, I had the opportunity to get my dream job. I applied to many companies around the world, and one major company in the UK responded. A recruiter from the HR department sent me an email. Hello, David. Thank you for your application. As you know, we are an international company, and we have a division in your country. We looked at your CV. We liked your background and perseverance, and we are happy to tell you that you have been selected. You and some other candidates will now move to the interview step. We will send you more details soon. Best regards. I felt so excited. I cried, thinking, yes, it's happening. I will do it. None of the other candidates are better than me. Surely I will be accepted. Soon I will work with a big company, earn a lot of money, and live near my dear family, without going so far, right here in my country. I decided to search for every big and small detail about the company, when and how it was founded, how it operates, what it needs, and who its partners are. I wanted to know everything so I could easily get the job. Then, I carefully read their job offer again. A recruitment company specializing in sales and service consulting is looking for a young graduate. Position: sales manager. Required qualification: high school diploma in sales management. Required English level, upper intermediate to advanced. It was a big shock. They required advanced English. I didn't speak English. In all my years of education, I had only studied it for 1 year in primary school. I only knew some basic words like hi, hello, yes, no, basic colors, and the names of some common things. I could count a few numbers, but I had never spoken English in a real conversation with anyone. At my higher education, I learned that communication was a key skill in our field. I was a good communicator, but only in my mother language, Spanish. I knew that English is the most widely spoken language in the world, but I said to myself I didn't need it. I believed that being good at my job and knowing its secrets was enough. I was sure that every company or organization would need me anyway. After reading the job offer again, I thought, now, I should be fluent in English, and with an advanced level. Why didn't I see that when I applied the first time? Many questions and doubts came into my mind. What can I do now? Should I go to the interview? But my English is terrible. But even with that, I believe I deserve this job. I know I am better than all the other candidates. Sales is my field. I know it very well. I decided to go to the interview. And that's what happened. We were about 10 candidates, sitting and waiting for our turn. I heard small conversations between them. They were practicing for the interview. They spoke English fluently. I started to feel nervous. My English was too weak, and I felt like I wasn't ready for this job. My role was coming, 2 interviewers citing and taking my CV. The 2 are native English speakers. They welcomed me and introduced themselves in English. I just nodded, and then they asked me, "How about you, David? Tell us about yourself, your experiences, and your motivation." I was a bit lost. I understood the question, but with difficulty. The full answer and ideas were clear in my mind, but when I started to speak, I mixed up words and sometimes repeated myself. I said, Hi. David, I sell, like sales, in many market, sell many clothes. I am. Very good. Sales is my field. They laughed. I laughed too. I explained more using my hands and some words, but I couldn't find the right words. I apologized and continued my speech in Spanish, explaining to them that I'm still a beginner in English, but I truly want this opportunity. At the end, one of them smiled and said, "Listen, David, we really like your energy. You clearly have strong potential and rich experience. But in our company, we need someone who speaks fluently in English. In sales and negotiation, words matter. Confidence, clarity, and connection are everything. If your English is not strong, customers may not trust our product and might go somewhere else. Our clients come from different places. Their English varies, and each one often has a different accent. You need to understand them all. Work on your English, and your dream job is waiting for you." In that moment, I felt really hurt, like something heavy hit me deep inside. I didn't get the job, but I got a lesson I will never forget. Part 2. Beginning. After the interview, I went back home. I was very frustrated. I dropped into a chair, holding my head, angry at myself, and said, "My God, I just missed my dream job. Why didn't I see the importance of English earlier? Why did I always say that just being the best in my field was the only key, and nothing else mattered? But now I see the truth. Without English, I was ignored. English is the key to my dream, and I don't have it yet. How long will it take for me to get this key? 1 year, 2, 5? I know many people struggle to speak English fluently, even after studying it for over 10 years. What can I do now? It was a long night. I sat alone in silence, thinking deeply, and made a clear decision. I had to learn English as quickly as possible. The next day, after selling some phone accessories at the nearby market and returning home, I started preparing my fast English learning plan. How can I learn English quickly and stay focused on it? What should I do, and what should I stay away from? I told myself that if I really want to learn fast, I must use my time wisely and stay disciplined. So, how can I do that? I thought that to build some good habits, I had to stop some bad ones. First, I began by clearing my mind and made a list of what I needed to stop doing. I decided to disconnect from some social media platforms. No more Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Before, I wasted hours lying in bed, scrolling endlessly through these apps, laughing at memes, watching live streams, following other people's lives, and jumping from one video to the next. I chose to keep only YouTube platform, unsubscribed from the distracting channels, and used it only for learning English. No more news on my phone. News really distracts my mind. Every day I receive a lot of notifications with news updates. I decided to turn off all sources of news. No more sleeping too late. I need a fresh mind to learn quickly. Sleeping less late and at the same time every day will help keep me in good shape and focused. All days are the same. Sunday is not a day to rest. It's a chance to gain more time to learn. After writing down all the bad habits I needed to stop to have more free time and focus, I asked myself, how should I start learning? What's the best way? Should I join an English center or pay for an online class? I kept thinking and told myself, I need to speak English quickly. Speaking and communication are skills you grow with practice, not just tests you pass. In online English classes or at language centers, they often make learners just memorize vocabulary lists, practice grammar exercises, and follow boring rules. I noticed that most people, even after joining those classes for months or even years, still couldn't speak English. I saw how they wasted time and money. I'm not going to make that mistake. I want real progress, not delays. I want fast results in learning English. What is more, all the most important skills I have developed, I developed by myself. That's why I chose to learn in my own way and at my own rhythm. Next, I set a goal. I should be fluent in English in just 6 months, and I named it my 6-month learning plan. Before starting my plan, I spent the whole night thinking, how can I become fluent in just 6 months? What's the best and fastest way? How can I build this skill quickly? And most importantly, what mistakes should I avoid? After thinking deeply, I realized something important. Many beginners focus only on learning and memorizing lots of new words. They believe that knowing 1,000 or 2,000 words will make them fluent. But that's not true. I already knew quite a few words and still, I couldn't speak. I also noticed that during my interview, the real problem I faced was trying to think first in my own language, search for the right words in English, and then translate. That caused a big delay, made me less confident, and put a lot of pressure on me. So I made a decision that I had to fix this problem first. I needed to stop thinking in my own language and translating. Speaking should come naturally and flow easily. And I didn't need new words. The vocabulary would grow on its own with practice. This phase of my learning plan is absolutely important. I had to reprogram my mind to replace translating with thinking directly in English, which was difficult and didn't happen overnight. I scheduled 1 month to focus on it and solve any problems that could face me in achieving this goal. No translating and no more new words. Let me explain exactly what I did. 1. I wrote a list of basic sentences. I asked myself, what sentences do I already know that I can use easily to train my mind every day? without adding new words or translating. I found about 60 simple sentences and wrote them down. Here are some examples. Hello, nice to meet you. How about you? Where are you from? I'm happy to be here. Can you help me? It is too expensive. Do you speak English? I am not sure. I like this place. I read these sentences in a clear and strong voice and repeat them 10 times in the morning and again in the evening. In the beginning, my speech was hesitant. But after 10 days, these sentences started coming to me naturally and automatically. My mind began to take in this new way of speaking. 2. I made a habit of speaking to myself in English every day. After simply reading out loud, I took another 10 days and introduced something new and highly effective. Every time I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, when I was at the market, I said, I am at the market. There are a lot of people. I bought a lot of things today. When I wanted to make something to eat, I told myself, I'm going to cook now. I need to gather all the ingredients. Let's make something quick and delicious. At the start, my sentences lacked connection and rhythm, and I felt a little crazy. But then I began to see it as my own private stage, where I could practice different scenarios without anyone seeing or hearing me. By the end of those 10 days, confidence, clarity, and connection began to grow in my speech. My brain also started thinking directly in English. But I noticed something a bit uncomfortable. When I felt calm, speaking came easily and naturally. But when I got nervous or distracted, I found myself thinking in my native language and translating again. That is when I understood controlling my emotions was another skill I needed to develop. 3. I practiced 10 sentences every day with more control over my emotions. To develop my ability to control emotions, I thought a lot about how I could practice. Then I found a powerful method, watching cartoons. Cartoons use a lot of emotion in their speech, which was great for me. So I used the last 10 days of this phase in my learning plan to pick up sentences from cartoons on TV. Every day I picked 10 easy sentences, copied them, and spoke them with their original emotions, just like in the cartoon. I repeated them 10 times, morning and evening. This method really made a difference. It helped me speak naturally in any situation. By the end of the first month, I felt that something had changed. I managed to reprogram my mind to think directly in English without needing to translate. Even if my sentences were short and simple, I could still speak naturally, confidently, and with different emotions. I felt a little satisfied, but deep down, I knew that after this 1 month, the real work would just begin. Part 3. Another improvement. After a month of training my brain to work the right way and correcting my major mistakes, my mind was finally prepared for the next phase. I felt confident in my speech and could speak without thinking or translating, but only with short, basic sentences, and that wasn't enough. I wanted to have real conversations. I wanted to understand everything native speakers said directly and without translating. So, I began a new phase, one that would take me to another level. And trust me, if you do the same, you'll be surprised at how quickly you improve. I discovered something very important. After this month of practice, while speaking, even if I was thinking directly in English, my brain was still slow. The words came to my mind quickly, but I couldn't put them together fast enough. I needed a new method to help my words come out more smoothly and without hesitation. I began using a simple but effective technique that I called the quick response practice. This is how it works. 1. I asked myself a simple and common question in English. 2. I tried to answer quickly without thinking too much. 3. I practiced the exercise with various answers. For example, I began by asking a simple question. Question: What did you do today? In the beginning, my response was short. I was working, but I challenged myself to say more. I was working in the market. I was working in the market for 4 hours. I was working in the market for 4 hours selling phones accessories. I was working in the market for 4 hours selling phones accessories. Then I come back home. Each time I responded, I included more details. This trained my mind to make faster connections between words and speak without hesitation. Here is another example. Question: What did you wear today? First answer: I wore a t-shirt. Then I wore a t-shirt and jeans. I wore a t-shirt and jeans and I put on sandals. I wore a t-shirt and jeans and I put on sandals because it was warm outside. I wore a t-shirt and jeans and I put on sandals because it was warm outside and I wanted to be comfortable for my walk. I practiced this exercise every day for 1 hour, 30 minutes before bed and another 30 minutes after lunch. My speaking speed improved significantly, with longer sentences and no hesitation. That gave me a lot of energy to continue my learning plan. I felt truly happy. My speaking was getting better, but there was another problem I had to fix. Even if I spoke English correctly, I still sounded like a foreigner. My pronunciation wasn't good, and my accent sounded strange. I told myself, if I wanted to improve my pronunciation, I should listen to how native speakers pronounce words and try to imitate them. That's exactly what we all did as babies when learning our mother tongue. Later, I did a quick search on YouTube to find some help. I discovered that what I had told myself was exactly the method experts recommend to improve pronunciation on your own, without a teacher. They call it the echo effect. So, I immediately started using this technique. Here's how it works. 1. I listened carefully to native speaker, from YouTube or podcasts. 2. I stopped the audio after each sentence. 3. I repeated the sentence, copying the same emotion, speed, and pronunciation. Here's an example. I took a short scene from a series. The actor said, "I don't understand why you are saying that. It's confusing to me." I paused and imitated, "I don't understand why you're saying that. It's confusing to me." The first few tries were frustrating. I couldn't imitate the actor. The tone felt strange on my tongue. But with each repetition, it got easier. I kept trying until my voice began to sound similar to the actor's. Another example. The actor said, "I don't need to explore the world. I can see everything I need in your eyes. You are the world." I paused and imitated, "I don't need to explore the world. I can see everything I need in your eyes. You are the world." I noticed how effective this technique was, so I decided to practice it as much as possible. I dedicated 1 month to practicing every day. I practiced for 1 hour each day. By the end of that month, my pronunciation had improved significantly. If you heard me, you would not be able to tell the difference between my voice and the actor's. I was really satisfied. I had made clear progress. Before, I couldn't even speak short sentences, but after those months, I felt more fluent. I was speaking without translating, without overthinking, and with better speed and clear pronunciation. I told myself, "Good job, David." But then I asked, "Is that enough?" I answered, "No, I have to reach another level." My vocabulary and sentence structure were still too basic. I needed to explore new words and learn how to use them naturally. What's the best way to improve vocabulary? Memorizing word lists will not work for me. It just feels like I will waste my time. So I had to find a smarter method. I needed a way to master new words naturally, without unthinking repetition. That's when I started using a fun and powerful technique, the story method. This is how it works. 1. I chose 5 new words every day. 2. I built a short story using those 5 words. 3. I told myself the story as much as I could during the day. Here is an example. The new words: rain, hurry, catch, wallet, paid. My story. It started to rain, so I had to hurry to catch the bus. I forgot my wallet, but a woman kindly paid for me and gave me a ticket. By using those words in a story, it was truly easy to memorize them and their meaning. Here is another example. The new words: struggling, deals, frustrated, hugged, seemed. My story. After struggling with difficult deals at the market, I felt frustrated. But when I got home and hugged my mother, everything seemed better. I practiced this every single day. After 2 months, I noticed something amazing. In addition to the 5 words I focused on in each story, I naturally picked up many others just by using the stories. My vocabulary expanded quickly. I had learned hundreds of words without memorizing any of them. The story method was effective for me, so I decided to practice it more and more every day. Every day I made sure to practice it and speak English for at least 2 hours, no matter how busy I was. Even when I had a lot to do, I spoke English while working, cooking, or walking. And whenever I felt unmotivated, I always reminded myself, English is my key to a happy future. I cannot give up. Part 4. Real Conversations. At this stage of my learning journey, my English skills had improved significantly. I noticed a major difference from when I first began. I could speak easily in any situation, and my vocabulary had expanded greatly. But I also noticed something important. All the sentences I had built were captured by my brain through listening. After enough repetition, I was able to learn them. My learning was based mostly on listening and speaking, and that wasn't enough. I needed to know how sentences are structured and to understand grammar. I wanted to eliminate beginner mistakes and achieve a professional level of communication. So, I made the decision to learn the structure of different sentences. I went to YouTube and listened carefully to native speakers. But this time, I didn't just listen and repeat. I started observing how native speakers built their sentences. Here's an example. The native speaker said, "I have been living here for a year." But what I knew and what I had learned in primary school was simply, "I live here for a year." I realized that the English spoken by native speakers and what we learned in school was really different. So, I started looking for that difference. I researched tenses and their use in real conversations. Why do people say, "I have been living here for a year"? This is the present perfect tense. When is this tense used? I realized that a little detail like that could have a major impact on speaking naturally and professionally, and I wanted to be professional. So I wrote down common sentence structures and practiced using them in my daily routine, and that really helped me. However, that wasn't enough. To achieve correct sentence structure, I faced many other challenges. One of my biggest challenges was prepositions. Why at the restaurant but in the cafe? At noon but in the afternoon? Why? To make sense of this, I used a small notebook to write down all the prepositions I found confusing, with examples. After a few days of practice, I was able to master the most common ones. But to make sure I never forgot, I built the habit of writing down my speeches every night. I wrote about what happened during the day. Writing helped me a lot. It made it much easier to organize my sentences clearly and naturally absorb how sentences are structured. That phase of learning was an important part of my journey. It accelerated my progress and removed a lot of confusion. I became able to understand even long and complex sentences spoken by native speakers, something I couldn't do before. At this stage, I felt much more confident. I had overcome most of the beginner mistakes, and my speaking sounded more professional. But something was still missing. Real conversation. Until then, I had only spoken to myself. I needed to speak with real people. Without real interactions, my journey wouldn't be complete. That was the last barrier I had to break. I thought a lot about how I could find people to speak English with. I didn't have any English-speaking friends, and most people around me spoke Spanish. I said to myself, what should I do? I need real conversations in English. Every day, I passed hours in the markets, surrounded only by Spanish. But then I remembered something. Yes, the English market I visited last year. It was a market where most of the sellers were English. I had been there a year ago to buy some phone accessories. They sold everything at wholesale prices. I remembered that day. It was confusing but funny. We managed to communicate with just a few words in Spanish. I got what I needed and left. So finally I had found the perfect place to break that barrier and have real conversations. I felt excited but also a bit nervous. Then I decided to visit the market and face my biggest fear: talking to native English speakers. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to speak as naturally as I did when practicing alone. But I trusted my progress and had confidence in myself. It was a morning when I entered the market. I walked slowly between the stands, listening closely to how the sellers spoke to each other and to the customers. My heart was beating fast. I kept walking until I saw one seller smile. I told myself, it's now or never. I approached him and asked in English, "Do you have this phone case in black?" He looked surprised, but he smiled and said, "Yes, we do. Give me a second." That was my first real conversation with a native speaker. I felt so proud. We continued with small talk about prices. How much is this? $3. And this? $4. Do you have something cheaper? Yes, look at this one. It costs $2. Great, I like it. I will take 20 of them. It was a basic conversation, but I was communicating. I made my purchase, said goodbye, and left the market with a big smile, proud and motivated. After returning home, I felt truly happy. I had communicated confidently with the seller. I realized that the fear of making mistakes is the biggest obstacle that can stop people from taking action. If I had let it control me, I would never have made that conversation. But I faced it and took the first step. I also realized that I had truly made great progress in my learning journey. The process I had followed was effective. From that day on, I decided to visit that market from time to time. Each visit became a new opportunity to practice real English. I had lots of conversations with most of the sellers there, and we even shared jokes and laughed together. Sometimes I made small mistakes, but no one paid attention. They focused only on what I wanted to say, not on the exact words I used. But for me, each mistake became a learning moment. After several visits, speaking became easier for me. Words came to my mind without any effort or preparation. I felt like I was finally speaking like a native. Then I took a moment to think about the level I had achieved. I sat down and asked myself, have I become fluent? Is this the level I plan to reach? Is it enough for my dream job? After a while, I realized that my speaking had become fluent, but only in short exchanges, like the first one. The sellers were often busy with customers, so our talks were brief. I was repeating the same dialogues with various sellers. I needed to have longer conversations. I needed to be able to share ideas and make strong arguments in long discussions to impress my future clients in my job. But that stage of visiting the English market was truly significant for me. Even if the conversations were brief, they contributed greatly to boosting my confidence. So it was time to move to the next phase. I had to prepare my mind and find a method to keep my speech fluent during more complex conversations. I thought a lot about how to find that method. I needed a way that would give me more time for longer conversations. I realized that in real life, conversations are often short. No one has much time. Everyone is busy with their own responsibilities. Even if I found someone to meet regularly for face-to-face conversations, they would still be brief and rushed, because we are all immersed in our own routines. I needed someone who could spend time and really focus on talking with me. Then, a great idea came to my mind. I found the best method that could truly help me: an online group. Yes, the online group was exactly what I needed. I felt very excited to start this new phase of learning, so I searched through many groups to find the right one for me. And finally, I found it. It was a WhatsApp group called Exchange of Experiences in Sales and Marketing. People from different countries were there, sharing advice and consulting each other, all in English. It met all my needs, helping me practice English and gain more experience for my dream job. I joined the group. I was nervous at first, but quickly I noticed that everyone was there to learn just like me. What made it better was that people from all over the world were there: Germany, Spain, the UK, the USA, Australia, China, South Korea, Russia, Egypt, India, Pakistan, Vietnam, and more. I thought, this is perfect for me. I will not just practice English with native speakers, but I could also get better at understanding how people from different countries speak English. I remembered the interviewer's words. Our clients come from different places, their English varies, and each one has a different accent. You need to understand them all. I started my first conversation in the group with a voice message. I was a little nervous but excited. Here's what I said. Hi everyone, how are you? I'm from Argentina. I joined this group to improve my English and learn more about sales and marketing. I'm really happy to be here. After a while, a member from India replied, Welcome. Great to have you with us. What kind of sales experience do you have? At first, I couldn't catch what he was saying. He spoke English with an Indian accent. I replayed the audio a few times until it became clear. Then I answered, I've worked in phone accessory sales. Now I want to improve my speaking skills and learn how to deal with international clients. He replied, Good. This is your home. We are here to help each other. His accent was unfamiliar to me, and I struggled to understand him. But it was just my first time hearing it. Other members welcomed me, and I felt really happy. I couldn't understand all their different accents, but it was only the beginning. That first time, I spent about an hour talking. But most of the conversation was just about introducing ourselves and greeting each other. I liked the group's atmosphere. The next day, I entered and noticed they were having deep and varied discussions. I told myself, okay, for now, just listen. So I made a decision. For the next few days, I would focus only on listening. I first wanted to better understand how they formed their conversations and tried to become familiar with their accents. And that was exactly what I did. Each day brought many discussions. I took my time to analyze their voice messages and written texts to learn from them. I focused on how native speakers built their sentences and ideas, and what mistakes non-native speakers made. As the days passed, I began to feel more comfortable in the group. I noticed that most non-native speakers made a lot of common mistakes with tenses, grammar, and especially prepositions. It became easy for me to automatically detect their mistakes. Then I realized how valuable the methods I had used before truly were. After that, I started speaking little by little in the group. At first, I only joined small conversations, like one day when I asked for help by posting a question. This is what was said. Hello, everyone. Can someone help me? How do you usually start a sales presentation with a new client? A member from the UK replied, I usually begin with a friendly greeting and ask about their needs. Then I introduce my product as a solution. Me, replying, Thanks, That is really helpful. I will try that approach next time I practice. I continued the same routine for over a month. I stayed consistent and spent at least 2 hours each day in short conversations. I participated in hundreds of discussions and interacted with the members regularly. My brain kept automatically absorbing new words, expressions, and different speaking styles. Each voice message helped me get familiar to a new accent. Some members had fast speech, others spoke slowly but used unfamiliar words. Sometimes I had to replay messages several times to catch every word. But little by little, my ears adapted. Indian, Egyptian, Russian, Korean, even the Australian accent started to sound more familiar. The conversations moved fast, but being in a group allowed me to participate without stress. Even when I couldn't respond immediately, others did. That took the pressure off and gave me time to gradually adapt and learn to reply more quickly. Sometimes I even guessed the country of the speaker before they said it, just by their accent. That made me smile. I was really learning. I also noticed that my own speech was improving. I spoke with more fluency, used better expressions, and didn't pause as much. After a month of group conversations and interactions, I realized that although I had reached a good level of speaking and confidence, it was mostly in situations where I was not required to reply immediately. I knew I needed a new challenge, something that would push me to speak more directly and without delay. That's when I decided to move to the final phase of my journey. One-to-one conversations. I sent a private message to an Australian member of the group and asked if we could have some short one-on-one chats. He kindly agreed. Our conversation was brief, greetings and some simple questions. I was a bit nervous at first because he was a native speaker, but that feeling disappeared quickly. Soon I was responding clearly and without hesitation. The words came naturally. It was a simple exchange, but I handled it confidently. That's when I realized that all the listening and practice I had done had truly paid off. We continued in the same way, chatting for several days through voice messages. I started getting familiar with speaking more directly, and my confidence kept growing. After a few days, I decided to challenge myself even more. I made a voice call to him. It was a real challenge for me, but I didn't hesitate and did it. It was my first phone call in English. Besides, it was with a native speaker. He answered my call, and this is a short part of what we talked about. "Hi, thank you for answering. I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all. It's great to hear from you." "Thank you. Well, I was wondering if we could talk directly by call. I need your help with something. Can you do that?" "Of course, it's a pleasure to help you. What do you need?" "I had like to practice a short product presentation. Can you give me feedback?" "Absolutely. I would be happy to help." "All right. Here is my presentation. Hello. I'm offering a new phone case that's strong, lightweight, and available in 5 modern colors. It's designed for people who want a mix of protection and style. Whether you are at work or out with friends, this phone case fits every lifestyle." Wow, that was great. Very clear and confident. I like how you described the product. Just one suggestion. When you said a mix protection and style, maybe you could say a perfect balance of protection and style. It sounds a bit more polished. That is a good point. I will definitely try to say it that way next time. Another thing. You maybe say durable instead of just strong to sound more professional. Great tip. I will use that word next time. That was just a part of our call. We kept talking, and he continued giving other tips and tricks that could help me. We spoke for about 10 minutes. What a proud moment. I had spoken with a native English speaker for 10 full minutes. No delays, no fear. Just smooth English. I smiled and thought, "That was a great improvement, David. You just had your longest conversation ever." I felt an unbreakable confidence growing inside me. It felt like I was truly unlocking fluency. But I knew that to maintain that progress, I needed more direct conversations like that. So I decided to keep practicing. Every day I would engage in group discussions and then continue to challenge myself with private calls. After a month, I gained valuable experience in having long conversations. I realized that I had reached all the key stages of my learning journey. My brain had adapted to speaking directly, easily, and for longer periods with others. Words flowed naturally, and I gained a deeper understanding of sales vocabulary and picked up many new words. One day, something special happened. The group admins invited some specialists to an online meeting about how to close deals with international customers. And there was a surprise. I found myself among the participants. The admins had noticed my perseverance and curiosity, and they decided to invite me to join. That was the big test for me. Before the meeting began, I felt really nervous. Speaking live with native speakers and specialists, it was a big step. But I reminded myself how hard I had worked. This wasn't the moment to doubt myself. The meeting started. I waited and listened carefully. Then I took the chance to speak. My words come out clearly and confidently. I didn't have trouble finding the right words. I understood what others were saying without confusion. The participants listened attentively, nodded to show their agreement, and even asked me follow-up questions. It lasted over 1 hour. That was the longest and most complex conversation I had ever had in English, and I did it. It was an incredible moment. That was the moment I realized I was no longer just practicing English. I was using it to connect, to learn, and to grow. That was the day I knew I had achieved fluency. It felt like a miracle. But in reality, it was the reward of months of hard work. I sat down and thought about how it all began. I opened my phone and checked the calendar. It had been 6 months. I could hardly believe how far I had come. I was no longer the insecure boy who had been ignored for poor English. Now I spoke with confidence, shared my ideas clearly, and even give advice to other non-native speakers. Part 4. Dream Job and Lessons. 6 months after beginning my journey, I applied again for my dream job. But this time, everything had changed. I was no longer the anxious, quiet boy they once met. I was no longer the guy who avoided eye contact or struggled to find words. I walked into that interview room sure of myself. I looked the interviewer in the eye. I sat down knowing that English was no longer my weakness. It was now a tool I could use with ease. I spoke clearly, and every answer came naturally. I wasn't just using English, I was shining. I saw it on their faces. They weren't just impressed by my words, but by the journey behind them, my dedication and growth. 2 days later, I received a call that changed everything. That moment will stay with me forever. "David, we are pleased to offer you the job. Congratulations!" Tears filled my eyes. I couldn't believe it. My dream job, the same place that once said no, was now saying yes. And the offer? A starting salary of $4,500 a month. $4,500 for my first job, more than I had ever imagined. I stood frozen, phone in hand, tears streaming down my face. The first thing I did was rush to my parents. "Mom, Dad, they hired me." My mom started crying before I could say more. My dad, who hadn't shown joy like that in a long time, said just one thing: "We always believed in you, my son." My brother and sister screamed with joy on the other line. Then I remembered the words my parents always said: "Even when we have nothing, we must still have hope." In that moment, I realized I wasn't just doing this for myself. I was doing it for them too. Keys, lessons from my journey. 1. Mindset can be your friend or your enemy. The way you think shapes what you do. Most learners fail before they even begin because of their mindset. They don't believe in themselves. I used to be the same. I doubted myself too. I thought English wasn't for me. But when I changed my thinking, everything changed. I started telling myself, English isn't hard. It's just a skill, and I can learn it. I began to see each day as a chance to improve. That belief changed everything. The biggest barrier was never the language. It was my own mindset. 2. Thinking without translating is the key to fluency. Every language has its own way of thinking. At first, I struggled because I kept translating everything from my native language. But I knew I had to stop that habit. I focused all my effort on training my brain to think directly in English, because I understood this was the hardest part of learning a language, but also the most important. Since childhood, our subconscious minds have been programmed to think in our native language. Reprogramming it to think in another language takes time and patience. That's why I gave this stage my full attention and energy. I knew that once I could control my thoughts in English, fluency would follow. 3. Have a sense of observation. The most powerful tool in my learning journey was being observant. At every stage of my learning journey, I took time to pause, reflect, and observe. I observed my progress. I asked myself, is this method really working for me? Am I making real progress, or just repeating the same things? I reviewed what I had done, identified my mistakes, and thought about how to fix them. I also observed the tricks native speakers used and added some of them to my own plan. Observation also taught me something important. Many learners work very hard, but they believe effort alone will lead to fluency. I realized that intensity means nothing if you are not on the right path. Without regular observation, I couldn't know all that. Observation saved me from wasting time. That honesty made all the difference. 4. Surpass your fear. In the beginning, fear stopped me more than anything else. Fear of making mistakes, of sounding stupid, of being judged. I used to avoid speaking English because I was afraid of saying something wrong. But over time, I realized that fear is a natural part of the process, not a barrier. And the person you're speaking to usually doesn't care if you make a mistake or if your voice sounds strange. They value your effort and focus on what you are trying to say. So I stopped waiting to feel ready and pushed myself to speak anyway. The truth is, you can't become confident if you never take a risk. You have to face your fear, speak up, and make mistakes. That is how real growth happens. The more I spoke, the less afraid I became, and eventually fear turned into confidence. 5. Listen before talking. One of the biggest lessons I learned on my journey was the power of listening. In the beginning, I was so focused on speaking that I often missed what others were really saying. And as a result, I wasn't making any real progress. I had no style, no structure, and no clear resources to follow. It was like being a baby. You can't speak without listening first. A baby's brain is like a blank page, and listening is the raw material needed to start writing on it. So I realized, if you want to speak well, you must first listen well. Listening helps you understand how native speakers build sentences, use expressions, and control their tone. I began paying close attention to every word, every pause, and every response. I listened not just with my ears, but with full concentration. It also made conversations easier, because I wasn't just waiting for my turn to talk. I was truly engaging. Listening became my teacher, and it taught me more than any textbook ever could. 6. Test yourself and organize your thoughts through writing. Writing was one of the most powerful tools in my learning journey. It helped me do two important things: test what I had learned and organize my thoughts clearly. When I wrote, I could see what vocabulary I remembered, how well I could form sentences, and what grammar rules I still needed to improve. Writing made my thinking visible. It showed me what I knew and what I didn't. At first it was difficult. I didn't know how to start or what to write about. But little by little I began writing short paragraphs, journal entries, and even messages in English. I reviewed my mistakes and corrected them. This process sharpened my mind. It trained me to think in English, structure my ideas, and express them with confidence. The more I wrote, the clearer my thoughts became, and the more confident I felt when speaking. Writing wasn't just practice, it was preparation. 7. Consistency is the secret. When I first started learning English, I was impatient for results. I didn't see instant progress, and that frustrated me. But soon, I realized that improvement doesn't come from doing a lot all at once. It comes from doing a little every day. That's when I understood that consistency was the true game changer. Even just 15 minutes of focused practice every day proved to be more effective than hours of study once a week. Consistency made the language feel more familiar, more natural, and easier to recall. The more I repeated, the deeper the knowledge stuck. Over time, small actions transformed into strong habits, and those habits built real fluency. Consistency may seem boring, but it is the quiet force that rewires the mind. 8. Practice English with both native and non-native speakers. I learned from one and reinforced my understanding with the other. Practicing with native speakers helped me understand real-life English that textbooks don't teach. Every conversation with a native speaker felt like a mini-lesson in real-world communication, but practicing with non-native speakers was just as important. It gave me a space to express myself without pressure, to make mistakes, and to grow. It also allowed me to help others, correcting their sentences or explaining things I had already mastered. This process deepened my own understanding. Teaching made me more aware of how the language really works. By learning from native speakers and helping non-native ones, I built a full circle of growth. One side lifted me up, and the other pushed me to grow stronger. 9. The fastest way to learn was my own way, at my own rhythm. I didn't rush just because others seemed faster, and I didn't delay out of fear. I listened to myself. I knew my capacity, my limits, and my strengths. What worked for someone else didn't always work for me, and that was okay. When I stopped comparing myself to others and started focusing on what actually helped me improve, everything changed. I chose methods that matched my learning style. I gave myself time when I needed it and pushed harder when I felt ready. The secret isn't speed. It's consistency and staying true to your own pace. That is how we build lasting fluency. Final message. So, dear friends, now you hold a real story in your hands. A story of someone who started from zero. No special talent. No perfect English. Just a strong desire to grow. I'm not sharing this to look great, but to show what is possible. If I could do it in just 6 months, you can too. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Learn step by step. Fall and get back up. Keep going even when it's hard. Trust your journey. Don't let fear stop you. Don't wait to feel ready. Start today. Stay consistent. Believe in yourself. And one day you will tell your own story. A story that will inspire someone else to begin. So make it one worth remembering.